So did you guys see that fiasco last night? Jake Paul and Ben Askren. Did you guys see that?
No. It's Ben Askew. He mispronounced his name.
Oh, yeah, with Michael Buffer messed his name up.
Right. Ben Askew.
It's Ben Askren. Ben Askren.
Yeah, this poor guy. Like
the funky man was funked.
Yeah. Oh, dude. It's so funny. It's so funny sometimes, even especially in the MMA world, when you see people that are just so highly regarded for so long, and then maybe they take a step up or whatever, but then it's so obvious. Like sometimes all it takes is one highlight reel knockout, and your whole world just goes upside down. And sorry about that.
Well, Ben was already coming off of the epic flying knee first strike knockout from Jorge Masvidal, and he did beat Robbie Lawler, but that was questionable to some.
That was a very controversial finish.
Yeah, Robbie said he wasn't out, and
honestly,
when you look at it, he was out.
It's super. The dude was standing, and he had. His arm started dangling a little bit, and it was like Herb Dean. I think it was Herb Dean that fight. Like he made a very, very probably bad decision. Like he was in a bulldog. He was in a bulldog, it was a headlock, and they're not comfortable by any means. But I don't think Robbie was tapping to that. I don't think he was tapping. I don't think he was passed out.
Yeah,
I don't think Robbie would have tapped him much. Period. To be honest.
He I think Herb Dean said that he thought he was out, and it's like, well, if you lose, if you pass out, the dude was literally on his feet, and he was bent over. His legs would have crumbled, and that's one of those questionable, super questionable. And then obviously the Masvidal fight where he 5 seconds, I think to this day is still the record holder in UFC for the fastest knockout.
Yep.
And then the fight after that, he got submitted, pretty handily, worked and submitted, and he retired after that. And now he wants to go try his hand against YouTuber Jake Paul, right?
Yeah. Who initiated that, by the way?
I think the story was that Jake Paul wanted to fight Dylan Dennis, and there was actually a moment where he threw trash at him in public, which was a very I think a shitty thing to do, to be honest with you, especially when you're with your fans. And Dylan Dennis, so I don't know what happened, and Dylan Dennis didn't want to fight him. As we all know, Dylan Dennis is a ground guy. He's a very, very talented jiu-jitsu fighter, and I to me I find it kind of weird that he didn't take the fight, but I can understand that that's not his style. But
boxing is a whole different animal.
Exactly.
It's a whole different animal.
And so it led to Ben Askren being the next guy, which
who's also not a boxer, and that's
yeah.
I mean, I got to assume on Ben Askren's part, he probably knew what the end result was going to be, but boxing pays a lot more than MMA.
Yeah, a lot. And I don't know how much Ben made last night, but probably sure it was more.
It was. I'm sure. He made 500 grand. He made 500 grand, and he.
That's not counting some of the other stuff.
Yeah, either. That's not counting pay-per-view buys or nothing like that. Just the initial paycheck was 500 grand, and Paul got 670.
And unlike UFC, you can have sponsors.
Correct.
This is true.
Correct.
This is true. The whole, I would.
I mean, you want to pay me 500 grand? I'll get in the ring with the champ right now, dude. Just to get knocked out of the world. I don't give a shit. Well, watch me.
But don't forget the other Paul brothers fighting Floyd Mayweather next month.
I really don't want to get too into these guys because like freaking. I kind of just on a deeply personal level, I kind of despise like what they're all about.
I have to agree, but I also have to respect.
But at the same time, like I get that these two brothers are a product of the time. It might not be my generation, but they are literally a product of being raised with like internet and technology, and they have used it, and they've exploited it, and now they have built this base and this fan base of. Whatever they do gets views, it gets clicks, they get supported, and now they probably never have to work another day in their lives. And I really can't say that they're dumb because they're not. You know what I mean? They're not dumb for it.
Very
like they
say that.
They have it. Well, they've used the system against itself. Like I fully support that shit. I'm like, I might not like it. I might think you're a total fucking tool. Hey, you like my shirt? I might think that you're a total fucking tool, right? Except fucking at the end of the day, I'm still working for chump change at the gas station, and these two guys are fucking doing whatever the fuck they want because they never have to work again. So who's dumb here, right? Like, I might not like it, but
I think it's safe to say that we have entered the age of the influencer. I think yesterday's event really showed that if you have all the followers in the world, you have all this money because these two brothers. Well, I think Jake Paul came from Disney Channel, and Logan Paul came from Vine. They came from like you say, came from a different time where internet started. The kids the next generation got a hold of the internet, and they took it by the balls, and now we're in this. I mean, yesterday
they've been doing it for years. There was a viral video from it was one of the Olympics. I don't remember if it was 16 or if it was 12. And it was like the Paul brothers like dabbing in the stands. And like at the time, like nobody knew who they were. So like it would just became like a Sports Center like cutaway or whatever. But it was the Paul brothers. Like they've been out there for a while. They've been doing shit for like a hot minute.
And Logan's actually a really talented wrestler too.
They are both fairly high level athletes. Like when these guys are not like just schmoes off the street. Like they have athletic backgrounds. They were raised in, I guess, decent areas. Good home. Obviously, clearly they had a lot of support from their family. That's fine. But they're not just a couple of schmucks just trying stuff. Like they've been around the block a couple times. Like, and they were both wrestlers, I believe. And then Jake, the one who fought last night, he got into boxing. But yes, Logan Paul was a wrestler of note, I guess, at the high school level. I don't know what he did after high school, but I know he was a decent high school wrestler. He was not just some schmuck, like by any stretch. Like he was definitely.
Don't forget the godfather of influencer success would be Justin Bieber.
Oh, he was on the show last night. Did you catch his set?
Bieber at it? No, I didn't watch it at all.
He was there.
I watched the fight right before we did the podcast, but I didn't watch the whole show.
Before we get into UFC, because we could talk about the Triller Fight Club all fucking day long because there was just so much that happened.
It was a shit show. It was a fucking shit show.
But I have to say, the Black Keys, I don't normally listen to them. They played a fucking amazing set.
Okay, now I'm gonna have to watch because
so Yeah, so I was literally gonna say like they should have saved the Black Keys for right before the main event.
And
Nothing
Ice
against
Cube,
nothing.
and Ice Cube too.
Ice Cube fucking rocked it too. Like nothing against my boy Justin Bieber, right? But the Black Keys, like a lot of people sleep on the Black Keys. The Black Keys have been around for a long fucking time. They are nothing new. And the Black Keys, they remind me a lot of Danzig.
They play the.
It's like
set.
like that one or two songs by that one band, and you know them, you know who plays it.
Yep.
But you sleep on like the entire rest of their catalog, right? And the Black Keys are just like every song they played last night was fucking badass. Like songs that like they don't get played on the radio, but they sound really good. And you're like, where the fuck has this song been? Like I've been waiting for this, right?
Can you
That's the Black Keys, like
not performing. Can you imagine the feeling for not performing for so long, and you finally have a stage to play on, and like between Black Keys and between Ice Cube, and I love Snoop Dogg. I love Snoop Dogg, but Ice Cube, especially with all the shit that a lot of people have been calling out Ice Cube for a lot of political shit. So I was really surprised to see him there, but at the same time, I'm really happy that motherfucker still got it.
Ice Cube is the man. Ice Cube is the man. Like West Side Connect gang, dude, for life, dude. Like that dude is no joke. He's still rocking it. He still got it.
He didn't skip a beat.
Not even one.
The one guy was playing a backtrack too. He was playing the backtrack, but when Ice Cube came on,
one of the female artists was like lip singing the whole time.
Yeah.
Like they literally like just had her go out there and dance and lip sing, and like Ice Cube came out like it was him. Like it was his voice in the mic. Same with Snoop. I have to give props to Snoop. He was sitting there smoking a blunt the whole time, still rocking the mic. Like I'm not saying I necessarily agree with all that. Like for all the kids in the audience, right? Like let's not get trashed and try to put on a musical performance, right? But apparently Snoop makes it happen, right? Like Snoop can sit there and smoke a blunt the whole night and still sound good on the mic. So, but then again, he's been doing it for 30 fucking years. So there's also that,
Yeah. I mean, would you expect him to not be smoking? Seriously?
Yeah.
I mean, if he didn't smoke all night, people would be like, "Is Snoop sober?"
Yeah.
He was even telling the one announcer, he was at, we got a green room meeting after this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, so yesterday's UFC card was actually really good, but I was a little distracted with the shenanigans that was going on boxing. Did you finish the fight yet, Sean?
No.
Oh.
But go ahead.
Go
ahead.
Okay, so was it Pena and who did Pena fight?
You talking about Violent Bob Ross?
Violent Bob Ross, and that fight could have gone either way. That shit was crazy.
There were a couple of split decisions. That was one of the two split decisions. I probably would have erred on the side of the judges that gave the fight to Pena, and I only say that because, like, round one was definitely the other guy, round 3 was definitely Pena, and then round 2 was kind of like the toss up, right? And it was one of those, like, when you have a 3-round fight, and especially in MMA, when the round is a toss up, you're going off of like the judges, who did the judge decide won that round, right? I probably would have erred on the side that they went with, but I could have seen it going either way. And it was the same with the female fight. Was also a really good fight, also a toss up. That whole fight was a toss up, and it also went to a split decision. It was a really good fight, and they ended up giving it to the veteran fighter over the younger fighter. That's one I didn't necessarily. I would have probably given it to the younger fighter over the veteran, but the veteran wasn't wrong necessarily, And I think we saw that last night in the co-main. Was it Arlovsky versus what's his name? Chandler, whatever.
No, it wasn't.
Dude from the South. What was his name? Arlovsky versus. Point being, Arlovsky was doing some stuff in the ring, not bad stuff at all. Totally legal, like nothing bad. But Arlovsky was he was fighting a smart game, He knew he wasn't just going to stand there and trade with this dude for 15 minutes. He could have exchanges, but he wasn't going to stand there and trade with him. And so he kept moving. Yeah, he kept circling out of the pocket. And at the very end of the fight, you saw the other fighter got visibly, emotional and was yelling at Arlovsky, like, come on, like, what's up? And Arlovsky fought a good fight, and he's a veteran. He's been in over 50 professional mixed martial arts matches, and he won because, like, he played a smart. He fought a point fight, basically, which I'm not a huge point fighter, fan, but when you're Andrei Arlovsky and you're 42 years old and you're mixing it up with somebody who's like 23, you
got to get tactical.
I'll give you the tactics on that one because you're 42 freaking years old. I'll give you the tactics.
Well, dude, I could have told you probably at least 6 or 7 years ago, there's no way Andrei Arlovsky would be fighting today because he was getting knocked out all the time.
He was.
After he got KO'd by Fedor, it was like a string of knockouts after that, and I was just like, and I hate it because early when I really got into the UFC, Arlovsky was coming up in the heavyweight division and was annihilating people.
Oh yeah,
annihilating them. I think the only person that he did not like destroy was Cabbage Carrera.
Yeah,
I believe that, but nobody knocked Cabbage out. Like, except
Tank Abbott. Except Tank Abbott.
Oh, did Tank knock him out? Well,
yeah, in their second fight, like Cabbage beat Tank in like their first fight in some like rando promotion, and they had a rematch like years later, and Tank actually I think that's the last fight that Tank Abbott won. Actually, was against Cabbage, like of all people, right?
Well, anyway, I love watching Arlovsky. Especially back when he was so dominant. But it was getting hard. It was getting cringy, man. And you just you're hoping that he's not going to get hit, and you're waiting for him to get hit. And then when he does get hit, you're like, oh, okay, good. He didn't go down.
Right. That's kind of like, and that was, I'll tell you what, for the main event last night, there were a couple times where I was like, how is this dude still on his feet?
Yeah, I'm watching the main event right now on silent. But it's the very first round, Whitaker threw a combo and hit him with a leg kick to the head, and his arms went like a balloon guy. I was like, whoa, shit, he's still standing.
Yeah, you're gonna see not to spoil anything for you, Sean, but you're gonna see a lot more of that. Yeah,
and I have to agree with every single thing. Hey, Dwight. I have to agree with every single thing that you said, Jay, but I also want to add in that Pena got picked up and thrown into the cage. I don't know if you remember that.
He did. Why do?
He got picked up and he went head first into the cage, and it looked like his neck fucking twisted the other way around.
That happened a couple of times. That happened in the Pena fight. That happened in the ladies fight. The ladies did that. It's becoming more of a thing. It's becoming more of a thing where, like, if you catch the leg and you get like that high single,
they're throwing them.
Just throwing them. Like that's, it didn't used to be a thing, and like last couple of years I've seen it happen way more where people are like they're using the cage to their advantage, where they're like, I'm just gonna fucking throw you into the ground.
Yeah, Bob.
Like that's how
that shit, man.
Well, that's how Thug Rose lost one of her fights. She got dropped on her fucking head and knocked out. Like, it's like that's. Why not? Like it's a cage fight, right? Like this is MMA. That's what happens in a fight. Like you get dropped on your fucking head, dude, you're out. Like you're done. And that's.
And I also have to give Pena points for his takedown defense.
He did really good at the end. The other dude started slowing down a lot.
Yeah, there was a couple times that he tried to take him down. He went for the legs, and Pena just straight up.
That's what won the other dude the first round. That's why the other dude won the first round, and that's why Pena was winning like heavily won the third round, and that's why the second round was such a toss-up, But that first round, he didn't have an answer for it. But once dude got gassed, there wasn't much left.
Yeah, and it was funny too because by the end of the first round, the Askren fight was over.
Yeah,
I'm telling you, I was having my recreational stuff, and I wasn't even done with it. I wasn't even halfway through, and I was like, holy shit, well, Whitaker and Gastelum is still on, and I was watching on my phone. And the one thing I love about the ESPN app is that when you're watching on the ESPN app and you're watching like regularly with your phone like this, it gives you the stats, like live stats as they're getting hit, which I think is a big help too, especially for people who don't know who don't know MMA math.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good thing, but even when you look at those scores, you think that one person is winning, but the other guy actually gets points for because you got to look at hold, significant strikes, the important things, and the Gastelum and Whitaker fight had so much of that, had so much of a little bit of everything. We had our grappling points, we had our striking points. Whitaker threw out combos like a motherfucker. That wasn't, that first round combo wasn't the only one.
Yeah. No, it wasn't, and not by far. Like that whole fight was a masterclass.
Whitaker looked good. So the Gastelum looked great.
I think Whitaker caught a wild hair when he got worked by Adesanya.
Yeah.
And so he realized there's basically the champion Adesanya, there's Robert Whitaker, and there's literally everybody else in that division. Because between those two, they have cleaned out that whole division. Yeah. So they need to have a rematch. There's no question anymore. There's nobody's on either of their levels right now. They need to rematch.
Now that Adesanya went up and got beat, he's going to stay right where he's at.
Oh yeah,
that's correct. That's correct. He is. And as he should. Adesanya, as good as a fighter as he is, I think he's way ahead of himself and way too full of himself right now. He needs to stay exactly where he's at.
And now he's got the loss. He's got the loss next to all those wins.
Yep. Yeah.
So his star power is a little bit lower. And man, I got to tell you, I don't want to Monday morning quarterback it or whatever, but when I first heard Adesanya start calling out John Jones, I died laughing because number one, Jones is a huge light heavyweight, huge light heavyweight, and I'm picturing Adesanya who he's 6'4", I think Jones is 6'4", but put those two dudes next to each other and you see what the differences are. You've got one guy built like a man. You got another guy built like a young athlete.
Exactly, and I was going to say too, for a lot of people out there don't realize if you've never done some type of a combat sport, whether it's judo, wrestling, jiu-jitsu, maybe even to a certain extent boxing, kickboxing, if you've never done that stuff and you've never had to face somebody that weighs literally 20 or 30 pounds more than you. Because you will practice with people that weigh more. You'll practice with people that weigh less. But when you've never felt that weight on you, when you've never already been tired and been trying to scramble your way out of a certain situation, or you've never felt what it feels like to get punched by somebody who has 20 extra pounds of torque on their fist because they've got 20 extra pounds of meat on their body, it's different. And fighting is different, and I think it's fun to talk about. It's fun to philosophize about. It's fun to watch the fights when they happen. What a lot of people don't realize is, it's fun to watch in the ring in a legally sanctioned environment because it's not fun to watch in the fucking street. It's not fun when it happens to you. You know what I mean? When you're getting stared down by a dude who's 6'4", taller than you by 4 or 5 inches, outweighs you by 40 or 50 pounds, the question is already over. It's not even a question. I will lose this fight. So do I swallow my pride and walk away? Or do I save face and get my ass kicked, right? And a lot of that comes down to how much training do you actually have, or how big of an asshole are you? Right.
I just think if Adesanya got in the ring with Jones, you would see.
Oh, Jones would work. Jones would work his ass easily.
Yeah.
About speed and power.
As soon as he got a hold of Adesanya, with the torque that Jones has, you would see a different side of Adesanya that you've never seen before. I think he would probably perform his best, honestly, against Jones, because I think in his mind it's his big moment. And
Sure.
you'd see him doing a lot of stuff that maybe ordinarily he doesn't do, even though he already does fancy shit. But man,
Pretty sure
think
the end
about-
result will be the same, though, right?
yeah. I mean, like, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Adesanya. You know, I think we're going to see. I think we're going to see him and Robert Whittaker fighting, and that's going to be nice.
Yeah.
You know, and then
You'll see the rematch. Yeah.
Then we got next week's pay-per-view, which looks good. We got Thug Rose versus Zhang, and
I'm looking forward to that.
There's some beef there over some words that were misconstrued by Thug Rose.
They say misconstrued. Freaking Thug Rose was probably in Jay's camp on that one. She was basically very subtly saying "fuck China," and the media picked up on it, so now it became a thing, right?
She gave an explanation with her family growing up in communism in Lithuania. So I mean, she has. I'm not mad at her for feeling that way, because everyone has a different ideal that they grow up in, and
I don't. I question all the time. I mean, it's easy to daydream about stuff, and it's like, what if tomorrow I got famous, and what if tomorrow I had a bunch of sponsors that were paying me money, right, and paying my way through life right now, and I didn't have to lift a finger, and I didn't have to work another day of my life. But what do you do when, you know, the people that you work for a foreign entity, or are afraid to offend a foreign entity, when that foreign entity is very, very abusive and very, very hostile to their own people, or certain portions of their own people, I should say, in their own country, you know? And so the people that are paying you are saying, you need to shut the fuck up. Like, what would you do? Like, it really does beg the question. Like, you can live a life of luxury. You can go back to fucking digging ditches in Arizona for $8 an hour. All you got to do is not say fuck China. Like, I don't know if I'd make it. I think I might get sent. I think I might get sent back down to the penal colony in Arizona. Like, I don't think I'd make it.
Off to Florence, sir.
Right back to Florence, dude. That's right.
I'm a fan of both of them too. They're both wild strikers.
Zhang is a badass. Zhang is a badass. She is a badass.
I mean, look at what she did to I can't pronounce her name. The Polish female fighter that she gave the hematoma to, Joanna.
Joanna. Joanna.
Jacek.
Just Jacek. Yeah. I don't want to mess up her name. Like she made her look like a goddamn alien. You know, she fucked her up. So I'm curious to see what is going to go down.
Well, and here's what everybody's saying about that fight, though, is that Rose stopped Joanna, and Zhang gave Joanna all that punishment, and it was still a decision fight. Like, that still went to decision, and it was still a close decision. It really was. Like, that fight, just because she had a giant hematoma on her head didn't mean that fight wasn't necessarily close. Like, so, you know, the fact that Rose finished Joanna, and I know we're doing MMA math right now, which doesn't work, right? But, you know, Rose finished Joanna like twice, literally twice. Zhang, it took Jane's 15 minutes of the best she had. Joanna was still standing at the end, and it was still a questionable decision. You know what I mean? Like, not saying Zhang didn't win, but it was still questionable. So
I just want to say too, for the Arlovsky fight, that finish and the way that the judges handled that, to continue it as a technical flip decision, very interesting. Yep. Very interesting, because that, you know, obviously that's a rare, you know, that's like seeing a unicorn in the field, you know.
Yep. We're seeing more of these. We're definitely seeing more of these happen, and this is where I think the MMA world need to start handing out 10-8s more. There were a couple of rounds. Whittaker had a fucking round last night that I thought would have been a fucking great 10-8. You know what I mean? Easy 10-8. Easy 10-8. Like, you know, when your opponent has like next to zero offensive output, you know, and you're the one scoring all the hits, you're the one pushing the action, you're the one doing everything, that's a 10-8. Okay, Just because you're in the center of the octagon and you're chasing the dude down, but the dude you're chasing down is beating your ass, that's still a 10-8 to me. Just because you control the center of the octagon doesn't make it a 10-9.
That's where we get in trouble with MMA scoring, because for me, if like I'm on round 3 and Gastelum is in there, he's throwing strikes, he's throwing kicks, but he's getting lit up.
Right.
For me, like, this wouldn't be a 10-8. He's missing his strikes and he's getting hit. A 10-8 to me is where you're being dominated.
Agreed.
A 10-7 is where you're like clinging on to life. And somehow the ref didn't stop the fight.
Agreed totally. And I
don't.
Yeah, go ahead.
I see superior striking skills. This may not be the round you were talking about, but obviously Whitaker's a better striker. Gastelum's no slouch when it comes to boxing. He's really good. If you don't believe that, watch how he KO'd Bisping. No. That was great.
Gastelum was a badass.
But he's pushing forward. He's got Whitaker on his heels. Unfortunately for Gastelum, Whitaker fights really well off his heels.
That's correct. So, and I don't want to, and don't get it twisted. I don't think 10-8 rounds should just be handed out like candy.
Yeah.
A 10-8 round would be a extremely dominant round by one party or the other. And like you said, a 10-7 would be like somehow you survived the round.
Yeah.
Somehow you survived the round and you didn't tap and the fight didn't get stopped. That's a 10-7. But yeah, but a 10-8 round is like maybe every third or fourth fight, maybe you see a round that might be a 10-8 where like somebody does a takedown, they're in they're in dominant position, they're laying the strikes down the whole round, maybe towards the end of the round, the other person gets up out of it, and then after they get up out of it, they're still on their heels running from everything. That's a 10-8. And MMA, there's way too many rounds in MMA right now, especially in the UFC, that need to be scored 10-8s. Because sometimes those rounds that are scored 10-9 and they're not scored 10-8, they end up becoming the difference in a shitty ass like split decision.
Yeah.
And it's like it could have been like a majority draw. You know what I mean?
Great example of a 10-8 that probably could have been a 10-7. I'm not sure how it was scored, but first round of Amanda Nunes and Kat Zingano. Nunes was just destroyed Kat, and I thought the ref was going to stop that fight many times.
Right there, yeah.
I did.
Yeah.
100% agreement. And the fact that it wasn't, you're totally right, Sean, because not a single judge scored that a 10-8. Yeah. None of those, not one of those judges watching that fight scored that a 10-8. They all scored it a 10-9. You tell me, I'll look it up right now. I'll Google myself on that, but I'm pretty sure like not a single judge scored that a 10-8. Like that's the problem with MMA scoring right now.
Yeah. We also had an incident where one fight was canceled. Jeremy Stevens versus Drakkar Klose. And in the chat last night, Smokey had mentioned it. He was like, "What happened to the Stevens fight?" Well, Stevens concussed Drakkar Klose during a shove during the weigh-ins.
What?
Yeah, yep. And I if you look back at the clip, I mean, we all know Jeremy Stevens, but this was actually kind of disrespectful on his part, and he shoved him, and you could see Klose's neck kind of just like, do that little gum.
Shoved him in the neck.
He kind of pushed him like, right there at the border, and like he had that like you could see the neck shift, and you can see Klose's face how confused he is and how upset he is. Like, dude, like, what are you doing? And then they announced that the fight was canceled due to a concussion.
Well, they do call him Little Evil, so I mean, fuck. What do you want?
Yeah, yeah.
He's not a little angel.
Very, very, very crazy, and Saturday night fight nights. I mean, Triller Fight Club was like watching UFC 1 through 7 all over again, and UFC Fight Night was as always well organized and fun. Oh, and I just want to say, Venom with their fucking awesome new fight uniforms.
Oh yeah. That's right. Reebok is out now. That's right.
Reebok is out, and I gotta say the upgrade is real nice. I like the designs; they look more modern, up with the times. And
I love it. I do like the designs. I did not like Reebok stuff. I've always liked Venom, but I hate that these fighters don't have the freedom to get their own sponsors anymore. It drives me nuts, and it's not fair. It's like
after the
it's
Monster
like
situation, so there might be some changes.
suddenly it was like Dana White or whoever that was making the decisions was just like, you know what? How about we make all the money for the sponsors and we just give them a little bit? That's what happened. They hijacked them. They said, nope, no more sponsors. And even if you go back and watch an old fight on the UFC Fight Pass, they blur out the old sponsors.
Really?
Yeah, there'll be blur spots on the mat. There'll be blur spots on the trunks.
Oh shit! So it looks like standard definition.
It's bad, dude.
It's a really bad look. Yeah, it's a really bad look when, and this is where you have these giant shit show spectacles in boxing, like last night with the Jake Paul Ben Askren thing, and both of those guys made more money than probably anybody except freaking the main card. Not even the main card, probably the main event.
Yeah,
like they literally put on just a shit show of a boxing show, and they still made more money. And the fighters in UFC specifically, but pretty much all of MMA, it's a joke to be that good at your sport and not be able to get paid for it, because the UFC basically has a monopoly on MMA right now. And when the Reebok deal happened, everybody's sponsorships went away, and you got to sign.
Bellator lets them do their sponsorship.
Bellator does, but you can't be part of UFC. You can't be part of UFC. So it's like you can either be part of UFC or you can go to Bellator and have sponsorships. And it's like, well, hopefully more competition arises, and hopefully more competition goes outside of the UFC, so the fighters can actually get paid for what they're doing. Yeah. You still go ahead, John. What were you gonna say?
So it's funny that we're talking about sponsorships too, because they've been having a big problem with Monster and Neil Blankenship, within the last couple months, how they've been calling him out for being, this fucking piece of shit that comes, he forces people to take pictures with them in order for them to promote the brand and all this stuff. And there's a lot of stuff going on. I can't, what was it? Dominic Cruz called him out.
Yeah, that was like, when I watched that interview, I was like, oh. Yeah. And you could even see it caught Joe Rogan off guard. And to keep that in context, like, they're really good together as commentators.
He's very professional.
So they've got a good rapport, and he just dropped a nuke right there on the microphone.
I mean, the UFC bought him a car. The UFC bought him, a car. They did stuff. He's a very professional guy, and I'm not mad at him. Let set the truth out, And Derek Lewis did the same thing, where Derek Lewis grabbed the Monster can and he took it off camera and was like, "I'm not promoting these motherfuckers. They didn't want me. I'm going to Body Armor."
Well, there's a semi-famous story from UFC 100 when Brock Lesnar beat up on Frank Mir, who also was at that shit show of a boxing match last night. Frank Mir was also
like a fucking shit show. He lost to a Navy veteran.
Yeah, he did. But when Brock Lesnar made a little comment in his post-fight interview about not drinking Bud Light, he said he's gonna go. Said he was gonna go get a Coors and maybe lay on top of his woman or whatever.
That's right.
Well, there's a famous story about Dana White, back behind the curtain, pulling him to the side and giving him the business. And Brock Lesnar shows up to the press conference about 30 minutes later with a fucking Bud Light in his hand. It's like,
surprise.
Yeah, like you gotta bring the dog to heel, right? Yeah. To heel, right? And it's like, it's one of those, and that's what I was saying earlier. It's like, I don't know if I could keep my mouth shut. I don't know if I would be able to, like everybody has their own ideas and ideations. Everybody has their own emotions, things that you feel, things that you think are important in your life. And it's like, how do you just shut all that off just because somebody's fucking paying you? Like, for some people, it's probably easier than others. For me, I'd probably be like, I can still dig a ditch, right? So I'm like, I don't know. But I don't know. If somebody waved, everybody's got a price, right? Like the $1 Million Man said back in the day. Everybody's got a price for the $1 Million Man, right?
I can't believe that that. This always drives me crazy about Brock Lesnar. That I can't believe that he's married to Sable, someone that we used to watch as a kid. You know, who used to come out with uh,
They're still married.
Yeah, I know. You know,
they're still married.
You know, Mark Miro, who was actually one of my favorite wrestlers as a kid. You know, who was a boxer too.
Yeah, Johnny B. Bad.
Yeah,
Johnny B. Bad.
Interesting times.
Yeah.
Game news. This I think is actually really exciting and kind of influential because it's kind of giving me the idea for us to do this shit.
Oh, there we go.
Ludwig Agren has broken Tyler Ninja Blevin's all-time subscriber record on Twitch, and the previous record stood at 269,155 subscribers, and Ludwig ended his 31-day subathon with more than 280,000 subscribers.
Cool.
It's a little early for me, so I'm not good with basic math this early when the sun is out, but his cheapest subscription is $5.99. So whatever that fucking math is, he made a lot of fucking money.
Right.
For those who don't know who Ludwig is or understand what was going on, he took a break from streaming for a little while and he lost a couple million followers. So he thought the best way to gain those followers back was to do a 48-hour live stream. Every time, so there was a counter, and when the counter would drop down to whatever number, the subscriber would, when bought, would restart the count, and the timer would go all over again. On day 2, it didn't stop, and it kept going, and it kept going. So at day 7 is when I actually heard about it, and I started watching it, and when I started watching it, he was sleeping. Like, he was literally, like, in bed snoring.
Wow.
Fucking sleeping. And there was a movie playing on, and, you know, there were people subscribing to him as everything was going. It was going. So I'm at work. I would put the stream back on. He's working out. He's in his home gym working out. I would go back. He's at the store shopping for clothes. He literally broadcasted his life for 24 hours a day. And on top of that, he had 5 moderators making sure that if there was any glitches or if the stream shut off, the stream would go right back on immediately. 2 weeks before the subathon ended, it reached 1 second. And it restarted all over again to 48 hours. So we kept going. It kept going. It kept going. On the last day, he said, that's it. Like, this is crazy. He gained I think he said he had in 31 days, he had 36 million people watching. Either coming in for 10 seconds or coming in for the whole day. On top of that, the subscriber money and donations, because there's always going to be donations, $1, a couple cents. There's always people donating. This guy, I can't see a number here, but he made a lot of fucking money. When it ended, he thanked everybody. He was telling his story how he was just a Snapchat marketer. And it pretty much explained, you know, I used to come home. I used to sit in my car in my stream, and I couldn't even get out of my car because I was getting too big and I couldn't handle it. And he took a break. He stopped his regular job, became a full-time streamer, and paid his moderators 6 figures, $167,000 each. And I believe he took a lower paycheck than them, and the rest of the money was donated to several different charities. What do you guys think?
That's kind of crazy. I don't know that I want people to see me for 30 days straight. I don't think people would want to see me for 30 days straight.
We're talking about showers too. I'm
in the same boat as Sean. I mean, I think I like the idea behind it. I think we're definitely moving into the 21st century as far as how to, I guess, market or, I guess, get your brand out there, if that's what you want to do, if that's what your thing is. I mean, it was even, I mean, I'm not going to lie, even doing this was kind of a stretch for me. Like, I had experience with stuff like, you know, when I was in drama in fucking high school, you know, being on the wrestling mat, you know, like, I'm not afraid of necessarily being in front of people per se, right? But when you put yourself out there, you put yourself out there, and it's like every last little teeny tiny thing you do can get, looked at for all time. And you see it happening today. Look in the news. They're picking, funky tweets that somebody sent out like 6 years ago, and they're using it against people. When it was even 6 years ago, it was still a different time, right? I'm not saying they were right or wrong. I'm just saying it was a different time. So nobody gave a fuck 6 years ago. Why the fuck do we give a fuck now, right?
Right.
But that's exactly what we're seeing. And it's like when you put yourself out there, by virtue of you putting it out there, it's out there for all time. And yeah, I'm kind of in Sean's boat on this one. Like, that's a lot. Like, now again, everybody's got a price though, right? Like, you tell me I ain't got to work ever again. Like, sign me up, and I'll do everything except wave a freaking Russian and Chinese flag, right? Like, I'll do everything except that, right? But yeah, we'll see. I mean, I don't know. It's one of those things that I think my generation, Sean's generation, our generation is mentality-wise, it's don't sell out, don't sell out, don't sell out. And then you get a little bit older, and you start realizing what's important. And I got a family to feed, I got kids to raise, I got to make a living, and like now all of a sudden, like now where's your ethics, where's your morals? Because where you weren't going to sell out before, well, maybe I will wear that bright pink shirt. I despise the color pink, by the way. It's a joke in my family because I always wear black. I despise the color pink. Like, it just, for whatever reason, like, always hated it, right? But then you got, like, Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and everybody wants to wear the pink ribbons, and it's stuff like that. Whereas, like, well, shit. If somebody said, hey, Jay, here's 10 G's. I want you to put on, like, this bright pink jumpsuit and freaking go jogging around your local city in this bright pink, like, would I be able to say no? I don't know that I would be able to say no. And that's the difference of being a 20-year-old idealist who thinks he's never going to sell out, and being 40 years old and understanding how quick money goes out of your bank account as opposed to how quick it comes in. And that's a real question I think a lot of people need to ask themselves, is like, where do you draw the line? Can you put yourself out there for 31 days? Because it was obviously worth it to him. It was obviously worth it to him. Some of the stuff we were talking about earlier with, like, UFC. Do you care about your sport so much? Do you care about MMA so much? Are you willing to sign a contract with, like, the monopoly just to get your name out there? But by the way, you're still going to have to hold down a second job because you're only getting $8,000 a show, and you're only getting $8,000 if you win. So the most you're going to make tonight is $16,000. The company, by the way, is going to make all the money off of you. You're not going to see any of it. You're not going to see any of it. But it's going to be your ass on the line in that cage. Is it worth it to you? And those are the questions you got to ask you. Is it worth it to you? Because I don't think the current generation doesn't think about selling out the way I think me and Sean's generation thought about selling out. Like, when we talk about being sellouts, like, it's way different nowadays than it was when me and Sean were young. Go ahead, Sean.
Yeah, what you're saying, like, it was so bad that, like, if you found a band that was cool and then they broke out and made it big, you couldn't like them anymore.
Yep.
Like, they betrayed you.
Yep.
And I think these days, like, how can I get one up and how can I get over? Like, they're looking for the way to get that shortcut. Everything's a life hack. Everything's a body hack. Everything's a social media hack. I found, like, it's all about that, like, quick gratification and jumping over all the shit.
And I got to say it right now, Sean, because I was kicking myself about 2 days ago. We were on it on this podcast when the GameStop thing happened with the stocks, and it's on video. I said, "Hey, buy Dogecoin, right? Buy Dogecoin."
And look what happened.
Yeah.
Dogecoin went from a third of a cent per share to freaking they're a little bit above 30 right now. Last I checked, 30 cents. By the way,
Dogecoin.
I did not, and that's where like I said, I was kicking myself. Right, I was like, literally called it like 3 months ago. Literally called it, and that's a hack though, right? If you'd have dropped, let's say 2 G's, you'd have quadrupled your money. You'd have quadrupled your money. You know what I mean? Like, and it's like, holy crap, dude! Like, and it's little stuff like that where you're right. Everything it's a life hack now. It's a freaking life hack. Like, get rich quick, not get rich because of like long-term like hard work. I'll get rich tomorrow. I'll literally get rich tomorrow and call it. Get rich tomorrow and call it. Somebody drop 10 million in my bank account right now. I'm done. Give me 10 million is all I need. 10 million. I've already got it planned out. 10 million for the rest of my life. I'm 40 years old. That's $200,000 for the next 50 years, even if I don't make any interest.
So you think you have 50 years left, is what you're saying?
I'm saying I could spend $200,000 a year for 50 years, and I probably wouldn't even hit that much because I'm not even making 100 right now. So like, if I can spend literally more than twice what I'm already making right now for the rest of my life and not have to worry about it, I would probably be fine. Like,
it goes to say this whole thing. What we were saying there, this is the age of the influencer.
Yeah,
it really is.
You could literally do anything as an influencer. I mean, Ninja.
As long as people are into it.
Ninja was playing Twitch, and next thing you know, I see him on TV doing the New Year's Eve extravaganza. You know, this is you're right. We're at a different time, and it's that's the perfect example of what you said, Sean, too. How back in the day, if like Linkin Park. Linkin Park got so big so fast, we didn't even have a chance to even like them before they became proverbial sellouts.
Yeah,
right. And there are bands and there's other bands that never sold out that are probably some of the best bands you'll ever hear, like i.e. the Black Keys, Concrete Blonde. Sean, do you remember Concrete Blonde?
Yeah.
You remember Concrete Blonde? Yeah. They never proverbially sold out. They've songs that are on a lot of soundtracks on movies from the 90s, but as a band, they never really sold out. The lead singer, Jeanette Napolitano, like, she's a very eclectic woman. She has her own ideas about life and the universe and everything, and that band never sold out, but they're one of the best bands. I will tout that band till my dying day as one of my favorite bands of all time.
I love the song Joey, probably one of my favorite tunes.
I got a double album for you. Hit me up later. I got a double album. It's a live album. That's actually what turned me on to them. Was
live albums.
Was the live album? It's a double live album from Brazil, a performance in Brazil. And actually, Joey is definitely their most famous song. But much like other bands and Danzig, like, I have like 3 other songs on there that I like a little bit better than Joey because of that album. So yeah.
Well, I remember so this is my best example of the sellout band thing, which I don't think they sold out. They just had success. So when I got into 10th grade, my girlfriend at the time was really big into Green Day. Green Day hadn't put Dookie out yet.
Oh, wow.
And she had a cassette tape that was a live show when they were in Mesa. Like, she managed to get the bootleg or whatever. And she knew all the songs and all that shit. And then here comes Dookie, and they're all over MTV. They're all over the radio. And all these Green Day fans with the Green Day shirts started to be like, the fuck, man? What? You can't do that. You can't be successful. And then they hated Green Day.
And that's like the perfect definition of like our generation. It was because like the minute it got popular, either you stuck with it and you stuck with it hard, or you completely like cut ties. Like, we're not doing this anymore. We're not doing this.
Well, look at today's guys. We have actors, we have streamers, which I have to say, a lot of people like my God, chastise me if you guys want to. My favorite streamer is Dr. Disrespect, and
looked him up because of you, by the way. And I'm like, I don't get it, but I can see how people like him, though. I can see.
I love the guy, and if you haven't bought his book that just came out,
he's got a book.
It's a New York Times bestseller, by the way.
Oh, wow!
Yeah, and it just came out. It just came out just a couple weeks ago. I saw that work, and I was just like, "What the fuck?"
Good for him.
But a lot of people say, as a streamer, and the same thing with Ninja. A lot of people think, because before Ninja started playing Fortnite, he was a rated R streamer. He used to curse all the fucking time. He used to do all this crazy shit, and then he sold out.
There you go. And is it paying the bills though? Like, you need me to stay PG-13?
Yeah, and
you're gonna pay my rent. You're gonna pay my rent this month? Fucking well, I might hold my tongue if my rent's getting paid.
And I mean, look,
you know,
and I mean, we could probably say the same thing about all the whole Avengers cast. We could literally say the whole thing about them. And then when you look at the DC side and you look at the DC actors, it's just like, oh, those guys aren't, they're not hurting nobody, But yeah,
I think a lot of what it comes down to is everybody. It doesn't matter what you do or what your thing in life is. I mean, everybody's looking for the same thing. Everybody's looking for a little bit of security. They're looking for being able to provide for their families. They might have come from the direst of straits, or they might have come from a very well-to-do background. It really doesn't matter. Everybody is looking to make their own little mold in the wet cement, so to speak, and leave their mark and leave their legacy on this earth. And it's one of those things where you don't think about it a lot until, and a lot of times it doesn't happen until you do get a little bit older, when you really do start thinking about it. When you're young and idealistic, it's easy. Shit, when I was 20, 21, 22 years old, I had all the energy, all the time, all the ideas, and then life kind of just starts happening. And then, you go through that life, and whatever happens, whether good, bad, or ugly. But then you get a little bit older and you start realizing, like, maybe it wouldn't be this wouldn't be such a bad thing. If somebody came up to me, it's like I was saying earlier, somebody came up to me with a brick of cash and said, "Here, on your next podcast, can you plug this?" It's going to be a real hard sell for me to say no. I'd probably have to ask you guys for permission, right? Obviously, because we're kind of a team like that. But it's like, golly,
I wouldn't say permission.
Well,
I would say more like let's have a meeting.
I was gonna say,
I'd say a percentage. I'd like a percentage.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There it is. Because that's exactly why I'd have to ask permission. Because I'd be like, well, Jay's making $10K just to plug something for 5 seconds. Like, you guys, first questions out of the mouth, like, what's in it for me?
Well, I mean, what podcast doesn't want sponsors?
You're not wrong. Not wrong. That's exactly what I'm getting at. That is exactly what I'm getting at.
We're listening.
We're waiting. Feed my retirement, please.
Yeah,
I'm getting out of the army in October. I need ideas.
Yep, and
somebody help me stay in Neverland.
All right, and so our final major subject that we got going on is E3. E3, which is probably the biggest game convention in the fucking world, is coming to us on June 12th.
Now, did we find out yet? Are we going to be able to co-stream?
We're pending.
We're
on the pending list now.
So they are going to have co-streamers, but what are they vetting? Are they vetting their co-streamers?
Yeah. They're pretty much, I guess, like doing process of elimination. Who has engagement? Who has who's influential? And they actually have another attendee type here, which I for next year I'm gonna apply for, which is media attendee. And after all, we cover games.
Yeah.
So if E3 you want one of us or all of us to be there, we would love we would love to be there. But that's gonna be the process. That's gonna be the goal.
Shit.
For money.
Yeah.
For money.
and the crazy thing about this, the Video Game Industry Showcase returns virtually only in 2021 with confirmed partners Nintendo, Xbox, Capcom, Konami, Ubisoft, Take-Two Interactive, Warner Brothers Games, and Koch Media. Who won't be there is Sony for the second year in a row. Sony will not be participating in the E3 event.
This was coming. This was a long time coming. The shift in the video game industry, and I got to say I've been a little perturbed by it in the last. I mean, even before we all knew each other, it's been the last 3 to 5 years. I've seen the shift go towards like the digital gaming. Downloading your games versus owning a physical copy of your games. The stuff that game developers and these companies get away with some of their games, like just absolutely nuking their content. When they stop the servers, the game is over. Like you can't play anymore. That's been a big shift, and I can see this kind of like rift happening between a lot of the bigger companies. Like E3, Sony last 2 years, Sony's just said, fuck it, we're done. Like, we're not there right now. And I would hit me up in a year. Let's see if Sony shows up next year, because I got a feeling I'm gonna call it right now. They're not showing up next year either. So E3 isn't going to necessarily become or be the. It might still be the premier event, but it's only the premier event when everybody shows up. And when you've got one of the biggest people out there not showing up, it creates a rift in the industry, I guess. What do you got, Sean?
I was going to say, John, do you think that this is indicative of maybe the slow burn and decline of Sony? Or do you think they're doing their own thing and don't care and they're good?
Well, last year, their reasoning was because they had more to show. And their PlayStation event last year wasn't anything to bite your nails over. Yeah, they showed some really good stuff, but it wasn't anything, that they couldn't have been a part of E3 for, and it disturbs me that they feel that they need to be apart from everybody, because the list that is here, I mean, Ubisoft, Nintendo, Xbox, Konami, Capcom, Take-Two Interactive, who are new, who are pretty new, coming out with games like It Takes Two and A Way Out. What I think it does, it creates the division that we as gamers don't want. Because if you think about it, okay, we're going on a year now that we've started this podcast, and look at how much has changed in the last year. And a lot of it has been, we had Ghost Tsushima, Last of Us 2, winning the Game Awards as well, winning heavy awards in different video game spectacle events. But they're
what do they have? They have right now. I haven't seen anything for the PS5 that's made me. I haven't seen a single thing from Sony that's made me want to get a PS5.
Yeah, and I mean, look at what happened the last couple weeks. We got major news that MLB The Show is finally coming to Xbox, and it's coming to Game Pass. And Sony's answer to that was, we're going to give you the Avengers for free.
Oh, okay. And Dan, like, what kind of that? Like, yeah.
I truly believe that Sony should be a part of this. Because it's always like, okay, you have a group of friends. We're all having a good time, but there's always that one fucking guy that wants to go drink sake in the hot tub. While everyone else is drinking apple cider whiskey, this motherfucker he's the one that they're digging a hole. To me, they're digging a hole for themselves. Because
you're talking about Danny Downer. Every clique has every clique has kind of like the same 4 or 5 guys. You got freaking Billy Badass. There's always one. There's always a Billy Badass. There's always Tommy Tough Guy. Tommy Tough Guy. He's tougher than everybody else. And you got fucking Danny Downer. He just he's got to fucking ruin it. He's like the dick. He's like the dick of the clique. He's got to fucking ruin it for everybody else, right? And it's like everybody else is having a good time. Danny Downer, he's never having a good time. So he's got to freaking bring everybody to his level, right? That kind of seems like Sony right now. Go ahead.
Hard to judge. It's hard to judge because I can see it both ways. I can see it either they are really missing out because of some poor decision making on their board or whatever, or they got this and they're going to be just fine. And I can't see. Time will tell. We'll see. When the consoles are out like crazy and the games are being produced for the new the engines and everything, we'll see.
My only thing I could say to that, Sean, would be if Sony's video game, I guess, decision making becomes anywhere on par with Sony's movie making decision making, they're in for a bad day. Because Sony is notorious for ruining good stuff in the cinema industry.
Yeah,
they're notorious for that.
But there was something mystical about the PlayStation,
There is. They did a great job.
It seems to not be that way anymore. It seems to be confusing.
They were ahead of the curve. They were the industry standard.
Yeah.
And starting in sales right now.
Starting with the PS2, starting with the PS2, PlayStation killed it, absolutely destroyed, demolished. And Xbox is still up there, but Xbox has been fighting behind the curve since PlayStation 2.
Yeah.
And now with the current gen, the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox, what do they call it? The Series X. It looks that Xbox is getting ready to take the lead, and this might turn into like a, Jay Leno versus David Letterman situation back in the day, where Letterman had all the ratings all the way until he didn't, and then he never regained.
Yeah.
After everybody, it was really weird. Because I would say Letterman is probably the better of the two, but
I'm such a sucker for late night shit. I love that whole era.
Once everybody switched over to Leno, he never got it back, and it was really unfortunate for Dave. It really was. But
and then Leno got pushed out.
Leno didn't necessarily get pushed out. He wanted to leave, but he wanted to leave, and he still wanted to have that Johnny Carson power.
It was Conan who got pushed out. Conan got pushed out.
Conan got dicked out because Jay Leno wanted to have. Yeah,
I loved Conan.
Yeah, Conan should have by all rights. Conan
was the first dude to have Slipknot on TV. Like, how can you be mad at that?
That dude was a badass back in the 2000s when he was like the Late Show.
And he was a writer for The Simpsons.
Yeah, yes, he was. He was doing great things way before.
I'm pretty sure he wrote for SNL as well.
He did what now?
Pretty sure he wrote for Saturday Night Live as well.
I think he did. He did. That whole circle.
Guy.
The who?
It's that Irish dude, the late night host.
I know exactly.
Craig Ferguson.
Yeah,
Craig Ferguson. There you go. Thank you. Yeah.
So, is there anything with PlayStation included? We don't want to leave them out. Is there anything that you guys want to see?
I'm waiting for the game from either console. It's probably going to be Xbox though. It might be multimedia platform. It might be on a single platform. Doesn't matter. I'm still waiting to see a game that makes me want to buy the next generation. I haven't seen it yet, and I know we're still very early in the game. The consoles just came out this year officially. I haven't seen anything yet that makes me want to go spend another part of a paycheck on the next gen. And so I'm waiting on that game, whether it's a single player, whether it's a multiplayer, whether it's whatever. I just started playing Doom Eternal, because remember we've had those conversations where I stopped playing Doom Eternal. I just started playing it again, so I'm playing Doom Eternal again now. So
I'm surprised you're not playing the classic ones on Game Pass yet.
I probably could. I just picked up the controller this week, so today's Sunday. I think I picked up the controller on Monday. So about 6 days ago, and that was the first time I touched it in 2 weeks. I've been very busy.
Yeah.
I lost a good friend of mine over this weekend, so Miss Mariah, here's to you. We'll see you when we get there. Wonderful lady, wonderful lady, beautiful children. So I might be sneaking out of state next weekend. Don't tell anybody, right?
Won't tell nobody.
I might be sneaking out of state next weekend, so to go say my goodbyes and pay my respects. But yeah, so that's the problem with being an active duty, right? Good thing I'm a staff sergeant, right? I got good battle buddies that'll cover down on me.
And then what's the problem with being a figure too? They will see this.
I'll see you later. It only matters if I get caught, right? It only matters if I get caught.
Sean, first off, I hate to say this, but your blur is making you look bald right now. When you raise your head, when you tilt your head up, look, Sean, look. It completely takes a. Sean, what do you want to see?
It will never happen. What I want is for all of these console companies to create a legitimate cross-platform avenue for people to game together in a community that works. But that would require them taking, their financial interests, putting it to the side and worrying about the gamers. enough and loving the gamers enough to go, these are our people. What can we do for our people? Because granted, consumers have a tendency to want to brand themselves. I don't understand that, but they do. Like people want, and the companies do their part to try to encourage consumers to brand themselves with their products. So, let me think of a good one. Harley Davidson's a big one. So if you're a biker and you have a Harley, you probably have Harley boots or a Harley hat or at least one Harley shirt or a keychain or something. Koozies. I don't know that. And
it's never just one thing. It's
right. You're branding yourself as I live that biker lifestyle. All right, whatever. There's a whole lot of companies that really want to push their brand as a lifestyle. And right now, with the social media, this is the greatest time for them because people are branding themselves gladly. They're becoming ambassadors, to companies, which is bullshit. Because most of the, I've gotten on Instagram a lot of companies that approach me to be ambassadors, and it's all dumb shit. Like they're like, okay, come to our company or whatever. It's exclusive. You can't be an ambassador to anybody else. And we're going to give you 10% off. So you've got to buy our shit, and then you've got to post pictures of you using our shit. And I'm like, man, no thanks. That's stupid. You want me to be an ambassador? How about you send me some of your stuff, and I'll see if I like it, and then I'll let you know.
That's the way it should work.
How it used to be.
Yeah.
That's how it used to be, and then companies discovered that people will fucking shill for them regardless.
Yeah, exactly. Because they're eager not just with branding themselves, but the optics of I'm an ambassador for this. It's in their little bio on Instagram, and it's it means nothing. And these companies, nothing.
This is a little known fact. Everybody loves the fucking band Tool, right? There's a little known fact about the band Tool. All right, there's a little bit of music trivia for everybody. Part of the reason they chose that name and part of the reason they used that name, it was because they saw this shit coming like way back in the early 90s. Like everything that we're talking about right now, they saw this shit fucking 30 years ago. So they literally named their band Tool. So their fans would literally walk around with T-shirts that basically says, I'm a fucking tool. Right? It was like an inside joke. It was like an inside joke with the band. Or I should say it started out as an inside joke. And that's not just the only meaning of their band name. Obviously, they've made many references and they've given many interviews over, there's a lot of metaphorical tools that we use in our life, and they want music to be like a driving engine, a driving force, and like philosophy and like, living your life, you're living your best life basically. And there's a lot of tools and there's a lot of avenues of approach for that. But part of the inside joke, another way of looking at the name Tool, is you basically just branded your entire fan base and they all just labeled themselves tools, right? just by virtue of liking your music, right? And that's exactly what Sean is getting at. Like you're just becoming a tool, you're becoming an engine for something else out there that's not really getting you anything. Yeah, you're not getting anything for that.
Yeah, and I have to say, Sean, that was like a perfect like I love that because it is very true. This is the perfect opportunity to do that for these companies to do that. And E3, we're coming into the age of interaction. We've been internet has been having us interact with these companies more closely than ever for years. And it's very, to hear that perspective really like oh shit, like that he's right. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
That's the long answer to I wish that the gaming companies cared about the gamers enough to give us something that we want.
Yeah.
Instead of just another carrot.
Been asking for a long time.
I feel that.
Yeah. And talk to the GTA fans,
Yeah, and personally for me, I want to see finished work.
Yes. A game with no bugs.
Yeah, I want to see, okay, like Bethesda has this problem a lot, and with the acquisition that happened this year, we're more than bound to hear a lot of shit about Bethesda, especially with Starfield coming out and Elder Scrolls 6, which I've said this before. I am a major Fallout slut. I fucking love Fallout. I actually just got Fallout 1 and 2 yesterday, and I'm about to fucking dive into that shit. And they've always been my favorite game company, and every single game that they have come out with has always been bugged. We had the situation with Cyberpunk. We had, even Valhalla when it came out. I this E3, I want to see their work, and I know it's not the little developers' fault. I know it's not the little guys actually doing the shit. It's the bigger guys. Give them time. Finish the game. If you have to delay it, we're okay with a delay. Are we? I've never gotten mad over a delay at all.
How about stop announcing, release dates before we know the game is finished?
Yeah.
I mean, like nobody puts movies in movie theaters where like it cuts from like some badass CGI to like a green screen because the fucking movie didn't get finished, right? Like that's a thing, right? In the movie industry, like the movie has to be finished to get played in a theater. What is the difference between that and a game? I mean, we're talking about playing these like large scale cinematic version, movie quality video games where you are the main character in the movie, right? And even a game that I've espoused many times in here, Ghost of Tsushima, because of how many hours I've spent playing that game, I found a few bugs in that game. Not very many. It's pretty clean. It's fairly well polished for a game. I'd say for a game in by today's standards, it's pretty well polished. But even I found a few bugs in that game, just by virtue of playing it for hours on end. It's not hard to find when you dive deep, right? And you're gonna get that every time. Somebody is always gonna dive deep. Where were the fucking testers? Like, why did the game get released? Why, like, what happened with Cyberpunk? What happened with freaking Fallout? Where the fuck is GTA 6? You fucking cocksuckers! Like, where is?
I have something to tell you.
What is going on?
I have something to tell you when we get off the air about that, because I saw something very funny and someone made a funny point. Fuck it, I'll just say it now. Someone was playing Red Dead Redemption and they saw a moment where the character, your main character, is standing in front of a bear and the bear comes charging at you and stops. And apparently this is a real life thing that if a bear comes at you, you're supposed to look them in the eye and stand your ground and they'll turn around and attack you. I've never tested it, so I don't know how true it is. I've never seen a fucking bear. But the streamer was talking about that the immense detail that they put into that one little bit goes to show that this is probably the reason why GTA 6 is taking so fucking long.
As long as they've got it started, yeah, as long as they've got it started. I mean, I don't. It's really, really hard for me to shit talk a Rockstar campaign game. The majority of my shit talk comes from what they did after GTA 5 was released, where they promised a bunch of stuff ahead of time for the online version. And then the online version was released. A lot of the stuff they promised wasn't there, namely like stuff like bank heists and stuff like that. They said they were working on it. They eventually worked on it. They eventually released it. But by the time they released all that extra stuff, the shark cards had gotten involved. And now it became kind of like, not necessarily pay to play, but it was definitely pay to win. And the in-game economy, the in-game currency and the in-game economy was so broken that, like, you can sit there and grind all day long and you didn't even make, a percentage of the money that you would need to get that next cool thing in the online version, right?
And that's why I hit the casinos in the game now.
I don't play anymore. I stopped playing years ago.
It's on
I
Game
stopped
Pass.
playing years ago. I wouldn't know.
Game Pass. Come hit the casino. We'll play some blackjack.
I believe you're going to see eventually. You're going to see some sort of a shakeup in the gaming industry where either there's going to be a new company that's going to put out a different console that blows the other ones out of the water, and they go out and they become like by Sega's, and like the Xbox is going to be just an obsolete company. Or the impossible, where they actually work together. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think eventually you're going to see somebody show up with a better idea that everybody likes, that makes way more sense, that's a little less corporate room centric and a little bit more gaming. For example, I used to play Neverwinter Nights on PC.
Neverwinter.
And Neverwinter Nights on PC, it was a module. I mean, you buy the game, you load it onto your computer, and then you can download this module and create the entire world for yourself. Where you can put, if you knew how to code, you could do all the spells, all the abilities. You could change the feats. You can do all this stuff, and then people would come to you. You'd name it like the DD214 podcast module, and people will find it in a list, click on it, make a character in your module, and so you'd have a population of people who played on your module. And there was a community expansion pack that would come out every now and then to kind of upgrade things for all the module owners and creators to mess with and play with. And it was all CEP, all community expansion, which means it was made by the players. The players made the stuff for the players, and it was the coolest sort of mutually beneficial type of gaming thing I've ever seen.
Shit.
And I'm not new. I'm sure that's like not the only model of that, but like it's the only I've actually used.
That's interesting.
That would be a great day in gaming, let me tell you. I mean, and that's I wish it wasn't all about the bottom line. I wish it wasn't always about money, but it's so obvious in the last 10 years of gaming that that's what it's just come down to. It's like it's literally just about the money anymore. And that's not saying that the games aren't good, because we still play a lot of really good games, right? But, you know, yeah, without going too far off the deep end on that one, it's just like it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. Yeah.
And yeah, guys, we've made it to we're here at the final thought. Before we hit the final thought, I just want to make a special announcement. We have, I guess we call it a show, working on a special project called the RoundTable. The RoundTable is going to consist of episodes subjected to one area in the military. We're going to have up to 5 to 6 participants who are in that field. For example, the first episode is going to be infantry. We're going to have a bunch of infantrymen talking about their experiences. Maybe just talk some shit, throw in some jargon in there, some good stories, and then, you know, get deep, talk about the awareness of PTSD. So, you know, because there's not enough awareness. There'll never be enough awareness, and I think this show would be a great way to show that different areas in the military suffer with a lot of I don't want to say a lot of the same problems, because everyone has a different experience in the military, but everyone's got a story, and we want to hear that story, and we all want you to be a part of that. So casting calls are out there now. Come on in. And then the second thing I want to say, I think it's kind of fucking weird. I can't show the viewers because it's like some OPSEC shit, but I'll show you guys. We're worldwide. People listen to us all over the fucking world.
Holy shit.
We could not be more grateful than that.
That's cool, man.
But
it is really, really
within
cool.
the last 2 Brazil has expanded to 5 different cities.
Brazil?
So our listenership has been spreading in Brazil for the last 2 weeks. It's in Paraná, Alagoas, Paraíba, Goa, and Bahia.
Bahia.
You know, thank you. You know, we have so many different listeners in so many different places. And this is going through the audio. Unfortunately, this thing doesn't get connected to YouTube. But, you know, seeing that we have Singapore still in there, you know, we still got, you know, the central, which is 100% listenership over there, even though it's 1%.
Central Singapore Community Development Council?
Whatever the hell that is.
That sounds like a government institution.
Yeah. But if you look at the United States,
Dude, how badass would it be if we freaking like got banned in like a foreign country?
That'd be great. But in the United States, we have a lot of listeners. A lot of
Holy
listeners.
I had no idea.
So you guys are listening. Thank you so much. Look at
Yeah.
Ohio. That's definitely smoky.
Yeah.
But thank we could not be more thankful and gracious for you guys coming and come listen to us every single week. Oh shit! Thank you so much. And yeah, final thought. Who's taking it?
I'll do it.
Go ahead, Sean.
Yeah. So weeks ago, a friend of mine called me. He was in it, man. Like he was in the middle of it, and he reached out, and the reason that he reached out, he told me, was that the last we talked about it, I made him promise me that if he felt like he was going to do it, to call, and he did. And that is sort of the prevailing point that we always are trying to drive home for everybody that is on here that listens, that is struggling with any of that suicidal tendencies, is to, number one, keep a clear mind. Number two, reach out, because I guarantee you, man, you're not the person that you think you are being perceived as, the scourge of existence, this heavy weight on everybody else's shoulders. You're not a burden. It's a tough one. It's a tough road to navigate, but when you're on the other side and you're able to look back in retrospect and you see it clearly, like this was something that I could have gotten through a whole lot easier had I this or had I that, or if I had just taken my buddies up on their offer to go camping, or get together and just have some brotherhood fellowship, and the sisters too, whatever. I don't really hang out with many chicks, but I'm sure they have emotionally unstable problems, so I've heard.
So we all do.
But John, do you have the number up at all? Yeah. So there's always an opportunity. There's an opportunity for you to reverse the course and make a change. It may not be a comfortable change. The times that I found myself where you may be right now, I had made a series of really poor life choices, and I got to where I was. And the only way I was able to get out of that is by undoing those choices. And it was difficult. I lost friends. I lost a spouse, which was a good thing. Trust me. And it's a rough road, and it takes years sometimes to recover, but it takes a lifetime of never recovering for the people who love and care about you to lose you, because it's a wound that never heals. And if you've got children, they are 50% more likely to kill themselves if you kill yourself. Think about it. I'm not trying to grief anybody, but it's a serious situation. And with my buddy coming so close as he did the other day, or the other week, man, it brings it all back up. It brings back all those emotions and all those feelings. And on the one hand, you want to encourage the person. On the other hand, you want to grab them by their neck and slap them around and tell them to wake up. Wake up. People actually fucking care about you. So there's the number, 800-273-8255. If you don't have a buddy, you got a buddy on that phone number.
Hey, and if I may, real quick, and I apologize, Sean, thank you very much, but I do gotta send one more shout out to my friend, because this was not a random thing that happened. This is just life, and sometimes life comes up. And I lost a good friend of mine this weekend. She had a medical issue about a week prior, so she had been in the hospital for about the last week, but unfortunately, her children had to make the decision to let her go. And so, but she lived an amazing life, and life of the party, never met a stranger, as we say in the Midwest and the South. Beautiful, beautiful woman. And like Sean is saying, when we're talking about making decisions for ourselves, sometimes life is just going to jump up and bite us like this. And we're not guaranteed even 5 seconds on this earth. And the fact that we've made it this long, I think speaks even more that we have an obligation to the people that we love and that we have loved in the past to live our best life, especially for the ones that have gone before and especially for the ones that have fallen and are no longer here with us. So I'd like to raise a toast for my lady Mariah for a life well lived. And I love you guys very, very much. I'm glad that we do this, and we need to keep doing it, because for the people that are struggling, for the people that are not struggling, for the people where random stuff comes up in life and next thing you know, your homie or your friend ain't there anymore, and it just happened through no fault of anybody's. It just happened. Yeah. People do pass away. Like everything that lives and breathes on this earth someday is gonna eventually pass on. That's why I got this memento mori. If you guys look that up in Latin, you'll see what it means. It just means remember that you will die someday. Basically, remember you will die. I like that. I like that quote from the Roman times, because it was a reminder that nobody's eternal. That someday we are going to face our own mortality, and we can live this life in a good way, or we can choose to be negative, and we can choose to be butthurt every day and pissed off and crying in our beers, or we can, live our best life, raise good children, party our asses off, have a great time, and then someday when it's our turn to go down to die, they're not going to be crying as much as they're going to be cracking beers like I am for Miss Mariah, and celebrating life versus mourning a death. So here's to Mariah, A-Slinger, A-Strike. Here's to her. Sean, great job. John, I love you. So you guys have a good week.
Love you all. Thank you for coming. See you next week.